So the plan today was to do another one of the scenarios from the scenario Discord, but unfortunately the one I got sent, they sent me the replay, but they didn't send me what scenario they were actually doing, so I don't know which one to download to show you it. Nonetheless, I went into my backlog and I was wondering what maps I hadn't shown in quite a while, and I haven't shown OSGILIATH in quite a while, in particular the river crossing variant, so this should be quite fun. And this one was sent in by Shoot Barrel quite a while ago, I think. It was nearly a month ago at this point, but even so, sometimes I miss the occasional replay that I can't show simply because I do get sent a fair amount, and my time, of course, recently has been quite short. Speaking of which, this will probably be the last one before Christmas Day, so I hope you will have a nice Christmas, and hopefully after Christmas and into the new year, when the new patch comes out, I can start getting into some of the faction overviews and such, because I think that is what I'm best at, to be honest with you. And yeah, obviously the links to everything will be down in the descriptions below, the 2 Discords, the ModDB, and of course the timestamp for the battle starting if you don't care for my waffling. Now then, we'll have a look at the army compositions before getting into the battle proper. And we have Stewed Balrog, who sent me the replay. He is playing as Dale, and you can see that sort of waist high in the river. We can see the dismounted elves being backed up by these Hearth Watchmen who are pushing the tower. There are also some, are those? No, the Sword Masters. Actually, yes, there are Sword Masters in there. I thought that was the officer model then, but no. We do have the Sword Masters in here as well. We also have the Dalesmen. The Dalesmen are cheap shock units, of course, so against armoured targets they could do pretty well. And we do have some dismounted elves, and of course the Dalian Paladins, very strong. And also some Barding Herd back here for those halberdiers. So a lot of good armour piercing in this Dalian army. We've got some hiding Athala Rangers who are presumably drowning because their faces are... Actually no, their faces are just poking up above the water. Good for them. We also have some Dalian Marksmen over here. Another unit of Athala Rangers. And then finally we have the Royal Guard. And a bit of a questionable... Cavalry is a bit of a questionable pick in a siege battle like this. Perhaps it will be useful though, we'll see. Then over here we have his first ally, which is Hadnix, playing as the High Elves. He's got some Sword Quindi pushing 2 rams. And he's also got some more Quindi, some Long Spears. And then back here we've also got some Mithlon Nobles, some Eldarenway Archers, and some Noldor Elders. Is that his entire army? Huh. How about that? So he's gone for a sort of a smaller army. I failed to... There's got to be some Sindar Blade Masters hidden around here as well somewhere. I would assume yes there are. So he's got some hidden units in there as well. And then he's also got some units out here helping out his ally over here. So we've got some Storm Raiders, a couple of Eldarenway Spearmen, some Falas Lords, and some Eldarenway Archers, in addition to these siege towers. And then finally, one of these armies doesn't really belong in an alliance of Dale and the High Elves. This is Isengard, played by Valwy. He's got some Uruk Reavers, so these guys are going to be good for the armour piercing. He's also got some Pikemen over here, so hopefully they'll be good in the choke points. The Bane Guard, which are... I can't actually recall if they're better or worse than the Uruk Reavers. I think they might be slightly better, actually. He's got a catapult as well, good for tearing down the walls. Uruk High Infantry should be pretty solid in a situation like this. Some Berserkers, Guards of the Orthanc. He's got some Uruk High Archers. No crossbows by the looks of things, though. He has got some Nazkai Bodyguard in the background over there, Berserkers, and a unit of Trolls of the White Hand. So, oh, excuse me, I think I might be getting a cold just in time for Christmas. But we have Baconfish 302 playing as Lothlorien. He's also got a catapult. He's got a couple of units of Galathrim Mounted Company. There's also some Knights of Anuminas from the Free Peoples of Eriador over there, so they're going to be charging out towards Isengard. The pikemen are going to be needed. The lack of crossbows might hurt him there. He's got some Sylvan Axemen over here, some Sylvan Staff Masters, and some more Sylvan Axemen. And then over here we've got some Sindar Archers and some Galathrim Veteran Warriors. You know the sort of thing to expect from Lothlorien at this point. They're going to be reliant pretty heavily on their skirmish to be able to survive. And we've got some Sylvan Heavy Spearmen over here, some Heavy Swordsmen and more Heavy Swordsmen. And of course I mentioned the Free Peoples of Eriador. He's got some Thieves of Tharbad back here. I've used these guys to pretty good effect in the past, although only against lightly armoured units. They do tend to struggle against sort of more hardy units. So you definitely want to keep them in reserve and maybe use them to flank around. A couple of units of Battle Ready Dunedain. We've got some more Lothlorien troops over here, so some more Sylvan Heavies. We've got some Cardolan Footmen, good cheap pikes, some Sylvan Axemen, and then forwards over here we have some Forest Shell Heavy Spears and Dunedain Rangers, more Footmen, more Heavy Archers, and then I believe the rest of his army is just down here. So we have 2 units of Heavy Swords and some Black Wolds. Is there no Forest Shell Captains? Maybe there will be, maybe I've just missed them. But yes, we shall begin the battle. It's been a while since I've been on OSGILIATH. It's a good map. The only real problem with it is, of course, a lot of the buildings are see-through, so archers do tend to have a bit of a superiority advantage here on this map. We shall see how this goes, though. Ooh, there's a trebuchet in the town centre. I missed that. Trebuchet is not too accurate, though, so against the scattered Isengard forces it won't be too effective. But over here, you can see that there are some dead elves already. They aren't crispy either, so it must be from the Lothlorien skirmish line. And of course, these Falas Lords and these Elder Runway Spearmen are a very good target for the catapult and the trebuchet. Definitely want to be thinning the ranks of some of these more elite high elven troops. If we look over here, again, hopefully I can get that. Maybe I'll get that scenario out before Christmas as well. It depends if Master Blaster sends me what scenario he actually did, as opposed to just the replay. Because I do like showing those scenarios. I like how creative people are getting with their maps. So the Dalesmen and the Hearth Watchmen just pushing up. You can see actually over here. Oh, they did actually send. There wasn't actually any up here previously, but we now have the Dunedain Rangers. And the Dunedain Rangers, and Rangers in general, while I'm focused on them here on this position, they will be getting better in the next patch because they will have an element of body piercing to them, so your arrow will be able to travel through more than one unit model. Because at the moment, their lack of survivability isn't really replaced with anything, so they're just kind of worse in many ways than some of the other units that you see. In fact, I might get a screenshot while they're preparing to fire. Fuck it, that'll do. Getting a good screenshot. I might go back and get a good screenshot after the battle, but for the time being that'll be fine. Got some Dunedain Rangers here, and we've also got the Forestshell Gatekeepers. It's a good thing he brought these guys because these guys are very strong. And these are, of course, the see-through buildings. You cannot walk through them, but you can shoot through them. Now, the one saving grace for Dale is, of course, they do have some very strong skirmishers of their own, so they will be able to answer this fire in kind. That was a nice hit on the Dalesmen, but again, I wouldn't really use the trebuchet on the Dalesmen.
Our men have reached the gate with the battering ram.
The Dalesmen are not going to be able to get through this defence that you've set up over here. I mean, you've got Cardle and Footman.
Our siege towers have reached the walls. Now the butcher's work begins.
You say that, but the Hearth Watchmen are not going to be butchering much of anything. Meanwhile, over here we can see that I have missed a little bit of the cavalry action. You can see the Knights of Numenor. They're going to be very difficult for Isengard to take out without those crossbows. We can also see that the Grey Company are here. They can actually hide, so no wonder I couldn't see them. But the Grey Company are going to be very useful at dealing with these berserkers. And then in the back lines over here you can see that the very aggressive play from these Galathrin Mounted Company has led to some results. They have managed to get into the catapult. They've taken a lot of losses, mind you. The Galathrin Mounted Company are less survivable than the Knights of Numenor, so they are a little bit more vulnerable to skirmish fire. And they do need to keep away from these pikemen. Will they be able to finish off this catapult? It doesn't look like it. But just a little nibble. Ooh, he needs to be careful.
Our men have done well. The gates have fallen.
So we missed that charge thanks to that little movie. They did charge into the back of the Berserkers. Not the best place for them because they're now going to get sandwiched between them and the Trolls of the White Hand. So they're going to take a few more losses, getting crushed by a troll. Yeah, there's not very many of them left, but the aggression from the cavalry is good. You can see there's a lot of dead units out here.
Our siege towers are at the walls. Our enemy have nowhere to hide now.
And the Grey Company might be out of ammunition. They don't have the most ammo, it must be said.
Our soldiers have proved their worth today. The enemy's walls belong to us now.
And they are cycle charging these berserkers, but again, horse archers, they don't have the best charge. They can still do a decent amount of damage, and against a small unit like that, they should be able to clean them up pretty effectively. But don't expect the horse archers to sort of smash their way into a very big unit like this.
Our foolish general has thrown his life away.
That is,
our chances of victory with it.
I believe, the Dalian general. We'll go back over there in a moment. Regardless, we can see these Uruk-hai infantry taking significant charge damage on these Knights of Numenor. It's much better on the charge. You can see this was a full unit before, and they're about to get completely swamped. And yeah, this is going to be brutal. Knights of Numenor. Probably only the Kalanardon Knights are better as a single cavalry unit, and normally you can have two of these guys. But I do like the addition of the Grey Company. It's nice to see them, although they might already all be dead. You can see that these Galathrin Mounted Company over here, what are they actually going after? I guess they're just being charged in, hoping to get a few more extra kills. What is this over here? Look at
Battle is
this.
very much in our favour. Victory will be ours.
In defense of the archers, the elves have made it a noob triangle. You can see that there are these Uruk Reavers, but yes, Isengard. The attackers should still win, to be honest with you. The cavalry has been used to pretty good effect. They have managed to just completely destroy this unit of Uruk infantry over here. But the numbers of the attackers in this situation should be enough to see them through. We can see that over here, if we look up onto the walls, the Hearth Watchmen still just sort of dribbling into the wall fight. We've also got the Dalian Swordmasters up here, and I think the Thieves of Tharbad were initially committed to attack the first wave of the Hearth Watchmen, and against the Hearth Watchmen they would tear through them like they weren't even there. But against Dale Swordmasters they don't stand much of a chance. Unfortunately, the hit points are just going to be too much for the Thieves to get through. They will inflict a little bit of damage on them, but ultimately they are far outclassed in this fight. Making sure that they can't get down off the walls on this side, however, we do have these Forest heavy swords. Looks like these Hearth Watchmen are wanting to leave, and I can't say I blame them.
Towers have been destroyed. Now we must use other means to break our foes' defences.
Really? Oh, I see. The artillery is trying to sort of go into the big blob that's further back. Meanwhile, we can see down here, leading the way with much more elite troops in the fight in the streets, we have the Barding Herd leading the way. And the Barding Herd, with their heavy armour and their heavy mass, are able to slowly but surely push their way through the much lighter Cardalan footman. So the defenders will need some more reinforcements over here, because while things are going pretty well on the other front on account of the cavalry, things are not going so well over here. They will need to hold this area.
Our siege
Meanwhile,
towers have been destroyed.
Knights of Annúminas have taken a few attritional casualties.
It'll not be long before our enemy's defences
The Grey Company are still firing their missiles though, presumably into the Berserkers or perhaps into the Pikes. Either one is a good target, to be honest with you. Although they're not actually firing their missiles. It says they are, but they still have their blades out. If they do still have ammunition, they will need to use it. The Pikes and the Berserkers are excellent targets as well. Definitely the soft point of Isengard's mostly heavily armoured and shielded infantry units. You can see these Knights of Annúminas, they are being sort of chased around by the pikemen. Knights of Annúminas are also winded, so they are going to get slower. Sort of bisecting this tower. What are they going to do? They're going to try and charge the Guards of Orthanc? It's possible. No, they're going to stop, and that's very dangerous. The pikes are right there. Oh, and the Guards of Orthanc are actually going to countercharge them, hoping to sandwich them between the pikes. Knights of Annúminas need to be microed a little bit more carefully than this.
The gates have fallen.
There goes another one of the gates. But yes, the Knights of Annúminas are going to get away before the pikes come in, and the pikes are much more deadly to the cavalry than basic spearmen are. You can actually see out here the aggression being used by these Sylvan Staff Masters. They're basically being sent to their deaths though. They have a very high defense stat, and that would actually help them against a lot of these sort of axe units which tend to have low melee skill. They tend to be based around their armor piercing values more so than their skill. But against the trolls they don't stand a chance. Like, the trolls are just going to mash them up, and they're not going to be able to do a lot of damage to the trolls in return. So these Sylvan Axemen are going to have to get ready, they're going to have to be braced. It's possible that what they're trying to do is just sort of blob up the forces on this one unit of Sylvan Staff Masters and use the catapult, but it doesn't look like the catapult's pointing that way. Might be going after these Uruk-hai pikemen instead. What is he going after? Uruk-hai infantry's back there? Is that what he's going for? Nazkai? You're definitely better off going for a bigger blob, because the catapult will often miss. Go on, catapult, fire. No? Oh well, he changed targets. Meanwhile, we can see that the Quindi are joining the fray, so the High Elves are coming to the aid of Dale. Meanwhile, you can see that these Rivermen are over here. The Rivermen, as I've said before, possibly the most cost-effective javelin unit in the game at the moment. I know that people are big fans of the Snaga skirmishers, but I do think that the Rivermen very, very strong, and they complement Dale's strengths very well. The battle-ready Dunedain against the Dale Swordmasters, a battle of two very similar units, both based around skill. Both are not armor-piercing, both are pretty lightly armoured, but both have 2 hit points. However, with these Earls coming up, that would mean that the Swordmasters are going to die. The Swordmasters have been taking arrow fire as well, so it's not an entirely fair battle. But the battle-ready Dunedain and the Dale Swordmasters would largely cancel one another out, but the addition of these Earls should tilt this fight into the favour of the attackers. We have another unit of Cardalan footmen being sent forward, trying to help this line out. We can see that the Dalesmen are coming in. The Dalesmen won't be too effective at dealing with these lightly armoured Cardalan footmen, but it does add a little bit more mass to the attack, and it does mean that these pikes won't be able to push the Barding herd back out through the gate. Meanwhile, over here you can see that things are rapidly falling apart in this front for Eriador. Dale are able to get some Earls around here, which presumably means that the wall fight is going in their favour. Although, to be fair, these... Oof, what was that? The trebuchets trying to sort of attack, but they only got friendly fire. Very unfortunate for them. You can see that these Forest Shell heavy swords have come forward, and they are pushing back, but now the addition of these reinforcements from the High Elves, these Sword Quindi,
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
it's not going to be good for the defenders. You can see back here the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen. But yes, I do think in this situation, you can see that the Forest Shell Gatekeeper is just taking too much damage. Taking damage, presumably. Let's go and see if it's my old friends. No, it's the Athala Rangers. Or is it? Nope, it is the Elder Enway Archers. Those AP arrows, man. Shredding their way through a heavily armoured unit. Let's go and have a look on the other front, though. Things have been going pretty well so far for the defenders on this front. And they need it to be, because on the other front they're doing pretty badly in terms of the trading that's going on.
Only half the enemy force remains.
You can see that the Staff Masters were largely wasted, sent out to their doom.
Our men have done well. The gates have fallen.
Through the gates, leading the way with the Trolls. And we can see that this catapult over here is taking a lot of fire from the Elder Enway Archers, so presumably they're going to be destroyed. These catapults need to start firing.
Half our force remains.
I think what he's been doing is he's been changing targets with the catapult, and that means it hasn't had much of a chance to fire. And if you're going to spend 1,000 florins on an artillery piece, you need to be prepared to use it. Meanwhile, what's going on over here? See these Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen ready to receive the attack on the walls. But we are actually halfway through this fight already. It's a much shorter fight, which is good, because hopefully I can do the other scenario later on today, and that means I can get 2 done today. And then we can have 2 videos before Christmas Day, instead of just the 1. Meanwhile, up here, I do like this sort of wall that has a roof on OSGILIATH. It always makes for some pretty pitched battles in here for the walls. Although this is going to be a battle that ultimately the attackers are going to win, the Sword Quindi and the Rivermen, although they are taking quite a lot of fire from the archers back there, the Dunedain Rangers. But over here you can see the combination of the Dalian Paladins, the dismounted Earls, the Sword Quindi and the Barding Herd are going to be too much for the defenders over here. Having said that, the Blackwolds are here, and the Blackwolds would do a pretty decent job against the Earls and the Barding Herd. The Dalian Paladins might be a little one unit too much for them. Having said that, we do have the Galathran Veteran Warriors coming in. They need to be committed right now, and they need to be committed over here into the sides, because Dale is sort of slowly wrapping around the red capes depicting the dragon. Yeah, Dale is slowly but surely sort of just marching their way through this defence. And over here, it's going to be it's going to be a very similar story. And unfortunately, really, for Eriador and Lothlorien, sort of trying to sort of fight a very atrocious choke point style defence is not really what they're best at. You know, in particular, you know, you've got Eriador, who's got, you know, quite a lot of fast cavalry, a lot of decent ambush units. The Cardinal and Footmen are a good pike unit, but ultimately they have limited options when it comes to dealing with this, whereas Dale, in particular, with their very heavily armoured troops, especially like the dismounted Earls, the Dalian Paladins, very heavily armoured units, multiple HP, a lot of damage, a lot of defence. They're just going to be able to force their way through situations like this. And you can see that there are some Sword Quindi coming in to attack from the rear as well. Things are going pretty poorly, although it has to be said, the percentages are very even at the moment. Only 2% in it. The balance of power is very much in favour of the attackers, and I would agree with that, but some of these elite units, particularly from the Elves, could still turn this battle around. And they will need to. Sylvan Heavy Spearmen won't do a ton of damage. You can see that there were Forest Shell captains hidden somewhere. And that will mean that this sort of front line over here will stabilise a little bit. You can see that the Rivermen are out of ammunition. The Dale Swordmasters, the Earls. These final few battle-ready Dunedain. There's also one Thief of Tharbad with his 2 sickles. You can see that there are these javelins as well that still have ammunition, trying to fire on the walls. They're already taking quite a hefty amount of skirmish fire from the Forest Shell Gatekeepers. Those bolts are going to do quite a lot of damage. See, what's happened to these Galatharan veteran warriors? They've been shredded by something. I would assume it's got to be the javelins, right? Having said that, it's very much a sort of mutually assured destruction kind of deal over here. The Dunedain Rangers trying to go and reinforce the other gate, but that might be a bit of a mistake because these Dalian Paladins are also over here and they're going to be able to flank around and presumably finish this defense off. And yeah, you can see the Rivermen have been firing their javelins down, doing a ton of damage to those veteran warriors, denying the elves their elite infantry. And that could yet be the reason why the attackers win this. Although I do think the attackers, they pick their choice of factions a little bit more wisely. Having said that, Isengard receiving point-blank fire from this catapult, so it's going to be very bad for them. Having said that, I mean, attrition is something Isengard can handle much better than Lothlorien. You can see that the guards of the Orthanc and the Uruk-hai pikemen leading the way. The pikes are not really in the most ideal formation, but it should get the job done as we're well within the last 10,000 frames here. And also in this sort of situation where the defenders are sort of scattered and they have several points, as soon as one of the points breaks, it'll be like dominoes falling over, I imagine. You can see these Sindar archers and Sylvan heavy archers still have some ammunition. What are they actually targeting though? That's the question. I mean, they're right in front of this wall. They're actually able to shoot through the wall. Able to shoot right into the side of these Storm Raiders. That's a good target. Storm Raiders are very sort of high damage.
Good tidings. The enemy general, the battle is very much in
there
our
goes
favor.
Haldir.
Victory will be ours.
So Lothlorien have lost their general. The Knights of Inumnus still have quite a few men in the unit, honestly. 21. They still have 19 Grey Company as well. So as soon as these pikes and these spears start to do steam, in fact, over here, things are actually looking pretty good for the defenders, to be honest with you. Because this first wave of Uruk-hai pikemen and guards of Orthanc are not going to be able to break through, especially that was a brutal close-range cavalry shot. Also into the Storm Raiders, taking out 10 of them in one blow. And that's the problem, they can't afford to send any more reinforcements through the gate because of the cav charges they will receive. So over here, the defenders are going to win. The question is, how badly will they lose over on the other front? Because lose they will. There goes the Isengard general at the hands of the Sylvan Heavies. What have we down here? Hold on a moment. That's a better screenshot, I think. Nice amount of action going on there. But things have stabilised over here as well, to be honest with you. The Sylvan Axemen with their AP damage doing a real number on Dale, and the Spearmen able to hold. There are still a few Gatekeepers left, which could prove to be pretty key. The Gatekeepers firing into these Dalian Paladins, doing a decent amount of damage to them. The Paladins should make it into melee, but not before they've taken a hefty amount of damage. They're also getting caught on the spears. There are also these Grey Company coming in. The Grey Company blocking the charge of the Dalian Paladins. And the Dalian Paladins are routing. 24 of them rout. A charge from the Grey Company and a volley from the Gatekeepers. That's unbelievable. So the balance of power is starting to stabilise a little bit. I was thinking that this battle was going to be a bit of a whitewash, but as it turns out, there are more Rivermen coming in. If they still have ammunition, it's going to be bad. Over here, we can see that the Linden Long Spears, yeah, they've fully surrounded these Sylvan Heavy Spearmen over here. So I don't like the Linden Long Spears, but at this job they will do just fine. So far the attackers are actually only noticeably winning on one front, which could be pretty key. I mean, these Forest captains are still alive as well, and they're sort of retaking the walls. They're going to be something that you can't just send any old unit after to deal with. See, more Dalian Paladins are being sent over. But yeah, these Rivermen. Rivermen are so brutal. That's the thing, they just have that little bit extra damage that the Snaga Skirmishers don't have. And suddenly, over on this front, the balance shifts again. So the attackers are winning this entire wall fight, essentially, because of the Riverman. These Grey Company are over here. More reinforcements are being brought over. I wouldn't commit these guys yet until the Rivermen have expended their ammunition. There are some Dunedain Rangers dealing with these Paladins that are just routing through the settlement. How are things going over here? Are the defenders still doing a good job of holding over here? The Sindar Archers could still be a very good force in melee. They have multiple HP, of course. They did actually send in all of their reinforcements over here, so the Sindar Archers and the Sylvan Heavy Archers being used here, and now using the mass Hadnix to push forward with all of his high elven units. What are the Knights of Inumnus doing? These Knights of Numenus need to get back in there. In fact, when these guys were repositioning, the Knights of Numenus should be ready to charge, but unfortunately the pikemen have managed to get set up, so they cannot recharge anymore. And at this point the Knights of Numenus would probably be better off finding a different place to try and effect some sort of charge. You can see that the mass being used by the High Elves and the defenders, it looked like they were going to pull it back for a little bit there. But now, you know, they invested a lot in their cavalry. And I think ultimately the cavalry just didn't do quite as much damage as it needed to in this fight for them to be worth it. It's a big investment, cavalry, and it's a risky investment on a siege battle. Dale still have some cavalry, don't they? Or are they all dead? It's highly possible they're all dead. It might be that he sent them all the way around. Interesting. We still have a lot of Dalian Paladins left alive. We still have another unit of Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen presumably coming in here to finish up these Rivermen. Of course, it's an interesting duel between the Sindar Blade Masters and the Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen. The Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen have got more armour, and I think they are slightly the better unit. But the Sindar Blade Masters are 100 florins cheaper, and ultimately that 100 florins is probably worth it. Sindar Blade Masters is a very good unit. Always a big fan of these kinds of units. The Hashari are included in that as well, of course. See that here come the mighty armour-piercing maces of the Dalian Paladins. Let's go through the ruins of OSGILIATH. Baconfish's spearmen still holding amazingly. Still surrounded, but still holding. You can see that the Linden Long Spears combining with the Sindar Blade Masters to slowly take them down. Also, in the new year, I hopefully will be able to start doing things a little bit more regularly again. Hopefully I will have more time, but we'll see. I mean, I don't want to make promises that I can't keep, but hopefully I can, and hopefully it'll be just in time for the new patch so I can start doing all sorts of nice things related to the patch. It's been a long time coming and I can't wait for it. Meanwhile, we have the dismounted elves. There are still 17 of them left. This one Dunedain Ranger sort of on the edge. Like, I know that men can't fall off walls on this, but he's determined not to let gravity take him and instead die by the sword. In fact, the elves are actually leaving this area. Soon he will fall. Meanwhile, what's going on over here? The addition of these Dalian Paladins is going to mean that these Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen just won't be able to hold for long.
Victory will be ours.
Again, it's not the fact that they're AP, it's just the fact that they're not heavy duty enough to withstand the pressure that they've been. And actually over here we can see there's a lot of just random men just running around the settlement. And then over here you can see that the High Elves, that push, using the weight of his numbers, the Falas Lords and the Elder Runway Spearmen using their mass, have managed to sort of break the outer defence, which initially, with the presence of the cavalry there, I was thinking that the defenders could have won this side, but ultimately Hadnix has been able to turn this around, and that does ultimately mean that the attackers will win this one. I mean, look at the balance of power at this point. You can see that they are also 5% ahead. It's pretty close in terms of the percentages, honestly. I've not really felt at any point in this battle the attackers were in huge danger of losing it, but the defenders have done a decent job. It is very difficult in a 2v3, especially on a big map like OSGILIATH. OSGILIATH is hard to defend because the attacking skirmishers can shoot into the settlement so easily and whittle down your defences, and also the see-through buildings certainly don't help with that either. But yeah, the defenders, I think they did a decent job. There were a few things that I would have done differently. Like, I would have probably gone for, if they were insistent on playing Ariador with the sort of Arnorian units, I would have had them bring 2 Knights of Numenus and the Grey Company to be like the cav force outside, and I would have had Lothlorien bring more infantry units, because they were lacking in terms of infantry. They were very stretched, but it is a big settlement for 2 armies to defend OSGILIATH. You can actually see that the Knights of Numenus are still alive. They have managed to get a charge onto these Rivermen, and the Rivermen, of course, they don't really stand much of a chance against Knights of Numenus, but the Rivermen have been probably the MVPs of this match for the attackers. They scythed those Galatran veteran warriors down, and they were able to get a lot of damage done to the Lothlorien and the Ariador defence on this front. Another word he mentioned, of course, would be Hadnix's push, but then that was a combination of many different types of units. We have these Sindar archers over here. We also have the blue cloaks of the Royal Guard. They're looking very vibrant, I must say. Almost pastel. But yeah, you can see these Sylvan heavy swordsmen surrounded on all sides by the finest that Dale have to offer. The Paladins and the Royal Guard. Those long swords. Again, the Royal Guard, like, they are a good arching unit. They've got, I believe they have AP arrows. They are not AP in melee, I don't believe, though. I believe those long swords are not AP damage, but that does mean they have a decent amount of skill. They are still mostly reliant on their armour to survive, as with most of the Dalian units, that dwarven influence. See, these Forest Shell captains are still alive up on this wall. Bloody hell. You can see these Forest Shell captains, they're going to kill these Earls pretty easily. The Forest Shell captains are the better unit there. And we can see these Paladins wielding their mighty maces. And then the Sindar archers are coming in here, but it is going to be far too late, and they are also taking skirmish fire still from outside the walls. So a bit of an unsung hero that we haven't really focused on.
Our men are in command of the castle.
Well, I say that. The Noldor Elders probably still have a lot of ammo, but the Athala Rangers have been firing pretty much continuously throughout the entire battle, making it difficult for the defenders. And it does look like they're just going to capture the town centre. Which again, I'm not really a huge fan of when people just sort of cap the town centre. I mean, at this point, it's obvious you're going to win. You might as well just grant your opponents the honour of killing them, rather than just sort of taking their town centre and knowing they can't do anything about it. It's much better to just recharge their army. They don't stand a chance against you anyway. The Noldor Elder nobles alone would probably be enough to defeat what's left of the defenders at this point, with how strong they are.
They're attacking us.
Are they indeed? These Nazkai are still alive. There's only 5 of them left. Isengard, you know, they took the brunt of that catapult fire, which again is for the best. They definitely have the army that's most able to take sustained casualties like that. Certainly not the High Elves, these Storm Raiders. They are anti-cavalry. In the next patch, I believe that anti-cavalry will be like how they are focused. I'm not sure if that's changed. I have said it before in the past, but these guys are meant to be sort of an anti-cavalry sort of, similar to how Axemen are. How they've got a cavalry bonus in melee, but they're sort of much more designed to be that. Because at the moment, they are just kind of a less efficient version of the Elder Endway Swordsman, which again is something I've said in the past. And I have been repeating myself quite a lot of late, but then, until the new patch comes out, that will unfortunately be all I can do. But yes. Osgiliath in the sunset, and the attackers are going to win. Of course, it wasn't good versus evil this time, it was... Well, I guess the attackers were more evil, just because they were the only ones with an evil faction in their ranks in Isengard. So we can say that evil was victorious this day, and Osgiliath has fallen. Yeah, it's pretty clear that you will smash the enemy at this point. So really, I think it's just the fact that these Forest Shell captains are over... Actually, no. The Forest Shell captains are now... Having dealt with the Earls, they now have to deal with a depleted unit of Dalian Paladins and the Dalian Royal Guard, which should be enough to finish the Forest Shell captains off, to be honest with you. I do like the look of the Royal Guard as well. Dale, in general, has just got like quite a nice style. Even if you don't see a lot of them in the movies, like they're obviously not as iconic as something like the elves over here in that sort of opening battle, the Battle of the Last Alliance, or Isengard, of course. Probably the most iconic single army from the movies. That is arguable because of Rohan, but there goes Ariador's general, and they are doomed. And it's just... I think actually those Forest Shell captains are the last troops left alive. For the defenders, anyway. So here we go. We'll just flick it up to ×2 speed. As they slowly get bled out by the Dalian Paladins and the Royal Guard. So yeah, not a scenario, but I will still leave the link to the Discord scenario in the scenario Discord in the description below. And hopefully, maybe before Christmas, maybe on Christmas Eve, possibly, I'll get the other scenario. It really kind of depends on whether or not I get sent it. If not, then the next video I do will probably be on Boxing Day. Perhaps. We shall see.
Victory is ours, but only by a sword's edge.
No, I'd say that was a fairly convincing victory in the end. Yeah, you can see that Tundra's Fox doing a decent job. Baconfish as well. I mean, You know, Isengard struggled against the artillery fire and the arrow fire that Lothlorien were bringing down on him, so the fact that he only got 402 kills is not too bad. Obviously, Dale doing a very good job leading the way with all of his heavily armoured shock troops, and that was something that Eriador's army and Lothlorien's army really can't deal with all that well. I feel as though it would have been perhaps more prudent, instead of Eriador, to be Arnor, perhaps. You know, and the additional skirmishers would have really helped there, I think. So have a look at who got the most kills in the battle. And we can see that these units of Rivermen, decent amount of kills between them, especially on high-profile targets. The Dalian Cavalry, I missed them completely. I don't know what happened to them. The Dalian Paladins doing a good job, of course. The MVPs for Dale, Royal Guard as well. So yeah, that was a quick little siege, a decently close one on the Osgiliath River crossing. And I hope you'll join me for whatever is next, which I hope will be the scenario that I got sent, and hopefully I will get the scenario to actually do that. If that one isn't out on Christmas Eve, then I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you afterwards. And yeah, hopefully the new patch will be soon, and I will be able to get some more stuff out with more frequency in the new year as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next.